everyone, Paul out of Sam. Welcome to part 2 of our MPC Airfix 1/16 scale AC Cobra video build. In the first part, we dealt with prepping the body, priming, painting, 2K'ing, and today we're going to deal with getting we're going to basically get a rolling chassis today. So we're going to deal with the engine, chassis, running gear, wheels, etc. and get this build really in motion. It's taken a while to get here, a couple of weeks. We finished off the Challenger in the meantime, and it's about a week's worth of work to get to this stage with this build as well. A lot of work on into today's video. So let's jump straight into the action and get started. Hey everyone, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications, get notified of our latest videos, give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and leave a comment. I do read and appreciate every comment you guys and girls leave behind. I may not reply to them all, but they are all appreciated. And there's a link in the description of the video that takes you to a big long list of all handy videos and a lot of the products I use in my videos. Right then, so straight into doing our engine. We've already glued this together. We did this the night before. And using our UMP Ultimate Sanders, we're going to clean up the seam as good as we can. We're not going too far, although this won't be visible, so we're not going to go absolutely crazy. But I glued it together the night before, so we could crack on today. Literally, tammy extra thin, all the way around, clamp it together for a bit, job done. Nice and simple. Clean up nice and easy, combination of our 220 sponge and our thinny buffer as well. And yeah, just get rid of all the rough spots, get it all as flush as we possibly can. If you want to, you could fill it, but I think it's a bit of a, well, thankless task, to be honest, for what can be seen. Multitude of our customizable sanders that have been cut to various shapes and sizes, which are very, very handy for getting in tight areas like these. So we just give everything a nice light little sand, not a lot of pressure, being careful not to hit any of our raised detail. And then come in with our sponge to get those curved edges, and that way we're not reprofiling the plastic at all. And we allow it to keep all its shape. Now we've got our intake funnels, trumpets, wherever you want to call them. These all need cut up to sprue. These were originally chrome, but we dechrome them in bleach. So we're going to cut them off, clean them up, and get them mounted for primer. Well, for paint actually. So mount them on our crocodile clips, and then we'll sand them up with our thinny sponge. Clean it all up, and then we can polish it all up with our Ultima buffer as well. So a bit of care needed on these. We don't want to reprofile the shape. We don't want to lose their cylindrical shape either, because these will be chromed. They are quite highly visible on the engine. Quite a focal point. And like I say, we're going to chrome these up later. So they'll be given a gloss black and then painted in Molotov chrome. So just be nice and careful. Don't go too hard on them. And make sure to not reprofile that shape. These sit right on top of the engine. You get a choice in the kit of these, or I think it's twin carbs with air cleaners. I chose these because visually they look a little bit more interesting. Although cut them off, painting them all, chroming them was a little bit more labour intensive. So various other parts to attach to mounting points. Now we're going to use a combination of super glue, spring-loaded clips, using holes to poke our cocktail sticks in. But for anything that hasn't got any mounting points, we'll put a little dab of CA glue on, push it inside where it can't be seen, and there we go, job done. So various different methods for mounting parts, your choice how you do it. So we've got Mr. Hobby GX2. This is gloss black, one of the much superior lacquer paints. Ultra high gloss, so I tend to put a semi-wet coat down on the first coat. It thinned with Mr. Leveling Thinner, about 60-70%. I throw out Apex 0.2mm needle at about 18 psi. Although I have lowered my pressure lately, I've been working at around 12, and it seems to be working a little better. And what we want to do is put down several light coats and then build it up to a nice wet coat at the end. So don't hose it all on to begin with, just get a coat down. We're not putting any primer down first, because we want to use the nice shiny plastic that we've got there. So just a couple of light coats, make sure you get inside and along the top, and then build it up to get a nice high gloss finish. The engine I'm going to paint in blue, same blue we used on our Ford GT500. So for our apex, 18 psi, 0.2mm needle. This is Tamiya's rattle can spray primer. It's been decanted and thinned with Tamiya lacquer thinner with retarder. And just give it a couple of light coats, building it up. I am moving more and more over to lacquer paints now, and that is including primers at times now, just for the sheer speed that I can continue work. They do dry a lot faster, so it is beneficial when filming, although I do still love our UMP primer and will continue to use it as often as I can. But for parts like this, quick, small parts, it's a godsend because this we're ready to paint in an hour. Same with the Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, thin to Mr. Leveling thinner, through our apex, 18 psi again. In fact, it's probably back down to about 12 again as well. The 0.2mm I've been using a lot more lately as well, and just finding getting a nice spray pattern at low pressures. So horses for courses here, use what you're comfortable with, the pressures you're used to. Don't be changing things just because I say I am, but try it. You know, if you want to give it a whirl, feel free. We've got some Molotov Chrome. This is the refill bottle, and we're going to shoot this over our GX2. It's the next day now, so this is well and truly dried overnight. As you can see, we've got a nice gloss black finish. We've already done the valve covers, cam covers. And as you can see, now this stuff needs a really good wet coat to get that chrome look. So I apply a half decent coat to begin with. We pop it down and we'll work our way around all the other parts, and then we'll come back, add another coat, and on our final third coat we'll make sure it's a nice wet coat, because that way it self-levels and gives us that beautiful chrome look synonymous with Molotov Chrome. Really nice simple way. The only problem is you need to seal it in to get the best out of it, otherwise handling it can cause issues. Right, we've got GX Blue. I think it might be GX4. I completely forget. Same colour as the gloss black. And this is a gloss blue. Same colour we used on the engine. Well, we're going to use for the engine, should I say. So mix it up, bit of Mr. Leveling thinner. Again, 60% thinner. Throw a 0.2mm apex again. About 12 psi again. I need to update these. And again, we're going to put a couple of light coats down, building it up, and then build it up to a nice wet coat at the end. The lacquer paints, these go down really well. There's only 6 or 7 of them in the range, but they are very, very nice colours, highly pigmented, and they spray really well. Absolutely beautiful. You can see the coverage is good. They do spray really, really nice. So yeah, experimenting more with the 0.2mm apex. Been using it a lot more lately. Find it handy for painting these smaller parts. And the lower pressure seems to be working really well too. So good combination. There we go. 2 or 3 light coats, and that is the engine covered. Onto our distributor cap. We've got GX Red now. And again, a couple of light coats. So being lacquer, you really can push this stuff. So 1 coat down, we'll let that sit for a minute whilst we're waiting for that to dry. Give it a bit of air, and let's have a bit of a muck around with the airbrush. So let's see how thin we can get it to spray. The beauty of the Apex, very versatile airbrush. It'll spray nice wide patterns, and then if you thin your paint appropriately at the correct pressure, you can spray nice thin patterns. This takes a lot of getting used to do. Certainly not something you'll pick up overnight. Good to practice though. So much so that if you're good enough, you can even write your name with your airbrush. And there we go. Enough mucking around. Second coat on the distributor cap, and that will do is like I said, the GX paints do cover really, really well. A very highly pigmented paint, and it dries nice and fast as well. So we painted up our auxiliary belts. We're going to paint the pulleys now. So we've got our circle template, looking for the appropriate size. Like so, we're going to leave the belts in Mr. Surfacer black. And then we're going to spray the pulleys in Tamiya LP semi-gloss black. So we use the circle template. Very light coat, building it up. Doesn't take a lot to cover the black because we've already got black primer down. Remove the template, and there we go. Perfectly painted. Paint the other pulleys as you see fit. And then we've got Tamiya LP11, I believe this is. Silver. I'm just going to paint up some of the engine parts. This is thinned with Tamiya's lacquer thinner, the non-retarder. And again, through the 0.2mm apex at about 12 psi. And yeah, coverage is phenomenal on this. I do love these lacquer paints from Tamiya. It's a whole different ball game. So much easier, faster, simpler to do. Absolutely beautiful paints. Highly recommend them. Bit of Alclad Aqua Gloss now. Through, again, the 0.2mm apex. We're about 18 psi on this one. I'm just going to put a couple of light coats down over all the Molto Chrome we sprayed. Once this is dry, it will seal it in. This has been left overnight to dry, 24 hours. Well, 18 hours if I'm honest. Just put a couple of light coats down on every part. Doesn't take a lot at all. It's very easy to overspray the Alclad, so really take your time. Like I say, a couple of light coats. Don't shake the aqua gloss. It is counterproductive to the gloss coat, trust me. We know someone who's done it. And leave that to dry, and after 24 hours it'll be handleable. We've got some Tamiya 2mm tape now. We're going to mask up and paint the gearbox transmission on the engine. I did contemplate leaving it blue, but I thought, no, let's spray it silver just to give it a bit of contrast, and yeah, that's what we're going to do. So a bit of careful masking with Tamiya's thin tape, which is excellent quality. Really does save a bit of time as well. And yeah, much better than the white thin tape. So get the most detail you can covered up with the thinner tape. Then we can infill it with the larger tapes like the 6, 10 and 18mm. Just make sure you got it all covered. All we want to do is paint the transmission, not the engine. Of course you could use some chrome and everything, but we're choosing to leave it like this. And there we go, masked up. All done with Tamiya tape. I don't think you can beat Tamiya tape at all. We're going to mount it on a cocktail stick for painting. I've used the cheaper tapes and you'll get issues. It'll either pull paint off, won't adhere properly, or it'll bleed through. So stick to a high quality tape like Tamiya and it won't go wrong. And there we go, a couple of coats of LP11 like we did with the rest of the parts. And all the masking tape off. And there we go. Not too bad, adds a bit of interest. Now we're going to drill out our plug holes. So we've got a Tamiya pin vise, we've got a 0.5mm shanked drill bit, and we're just going to line this up with the markings on the engine block and just very gently drill these out. That way we can wire it up and add a bit more interest. There's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There we go. There's all 8 done. Now we've got some. I think I remember right. I'm trying to remember what gauge wire this was, and I've completely forgotten. But it's a thin wire, as you can see. Totally forgotten what gauge it was. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop a bit of heat shrink on there, just near the end. That'll replicate the spark plug connectors. So we've got a jet flame light on, very low power. Just shrink that. We'll cut off a length. And then we'll pop it in like so. Now, if I remember right, this is 30 gauge wire off the top of my head. I may be wrong, but we're going to shape it. We're going to make sure that's cooled down enough. We're going to dip it in some Loctite super glue. And then pop it into the hole for the drill. You can see we've got one in already. Just pop it in, hold it for a second. Job done. There we go. And then we'll do 8 more. You can see we've got 7 done there. We'll just leave an excess of wire hanging out the side. And then we'll drill out our distributor. Nice and carefully. Take your time. And then we can start gluing on some of the other parts. So we've got the cam cover on, water pump on. Just a little bit of CA glue holding these in place. And then our starter motor can be popped in place too. For an older kit, the detail's not that bad. I've seen worse on newer kits, so overall it's going okay so far. We have a few fit issues later on today on the chassis, but overall it's not too bad. Alternator, generator, whatever the hell you want to call it, onto our drive belts. Make sure you get the right road round, have a look at your instructions. And there we go. Like I say, putting the aquagloss on makes this a lot more manageable and handleable, if that's even a word. Whereas a Molotov is very delicate and you'll leave fingerprints in it. But this does work really well. Popping our carbs on in place. It's a little bit lacking in detail here. The fit's not the best, so it is what it is. There's a compromise here. It's a 40-year-old kit. It's not going to be fantastic, but overall it goes together well. And we got our intake trumpets or inlets, wherever you want to call them, because I'm sure 10 people are going to call them 10 different things. And there we go. We got our cam covers on, rocker covers I call them. One in place. And then the other. Careful with the glue. Now, in hindsight, I should have put the part that holds the carbs on first, because I had to pop them back off to put them on. So put that in place first, then pop it on. And then we pop our distributor in the top and start to wire it up. So this means measuring each wire. Like so. And what we've done is we've bent the wire and we popped a bit of heat shrink over it again, shrunk it like we did before, and made our connector for the other end that way. And we're going to repeat that for all 8 of them. A little dab of Loctite glue. Pop it in the appropriate hole. No, it's not in firing order if anybody says. And there we go. There's all 8 done. It's a bit fiddly, but time well spent, because that's a nice bit of detail to the engine. And it's a good visual interest. Temi panel line wash now, the black. So we're going to pop this on every raised and recessed area of the engine. And again, once it's dried, we can wipe off the excess. And again, it highlights and adds a bit of visual interest. And gets rid of that boring, what's the word I'm looking for? Not monochrome, but that boring just look of completely unweathered. I mean, you can go the whole hog with this. You can make it rusty, dusty, muddy, whatever. But we're just going for this. This is new out of the factory. That's all my cars are built. So just add a bit of a wash for a bit of interest. Let the capillary action carry the wash around, let it dry, and you can remove any excess with a cotton bud with a bit of odourless mineral spirits on. It's enamel based wash, takes about half an hour to dry depending on how thick you put it on. But it's a good wash. It's a bit difficult to get in the UK, a bit of a shame, it's not officially imported. But as you can see, it does have to add a bit of depth, especially to metallic parts. And it is well worth adding. So I'll literally work my way around the whole body. The whole engine. Now you'll notice we've got our exhausts on there, the manifolds or headers. They are the wrong ones. I haven't quite realised yet. I've gone and painted them, and we don't need those, so we'll get to those later. We've got some Tamiya white cement, and we're going to glue together all our suspension struts. So they're all in half. So a little bit of glue, carefully applied. Don't get it all over your fingers. And then a clamp. Put it to one side, let it dry overnight. Bit of careful gluing, and then we've got our green Tamiya extra thin now, just to go around to make sure all the seams are fully done as well. And then the next morning we can come in and sand them up. So using a combination of our thinny sponge from Ultimate Modeling Products, that'll get rid of the majority of the seam. And then we use our buffer to get that back to nice plastic. Then I've got a Suji Burrito triangular file that we're going to try and remove the edges ever so carefully, because obviously the sander can't get right inside the coils. And then we'll grab our Half Moon Suji Burrito file as well and pop that in place and get rid of the seam line as much as we can inside. So a bit boring to do, but again, visual interest. You can't really see these parts. It is a real shame, but you might as well make the most of what you've got and do the best job you can. After all, you pay for the kit, you might as well enjoy modelling the whole thing. And there we go. That gets rid of the most of the seams. Then we can deal with the rest using some Tamiya Extra Thin. So we load up the brush, we get right in between those springs. There's a seam in there that we can't really get to properly. What we're going to do, we're going to let the Tamiya Extra Thin do its job and melt the plastic, and then use the Tamiya brush to brush through and brush out that seam. It works very, very well. So let it do this, then load it up again. Go all the way through it again and just keep brushing and brushing for a minute or so, and you'll get rid of that seam beautifully. Now this is nasty plastic. Everything I sanded or glued, it left black residue behind. Really horrible plastic to work with. So yeah, it made a real mess of my Tamiya brush, but there we go. Time for a tea break. We've got a nice cup of tea in our ultimate mug and a little bit of a snack while we have a look at the instructions to see where we go next. Ultimate mugs and ISM mugs, they should be available still on umpretail.com. As you can see, I don't like my tea strong at all. Literally shake the tea bag for half a second, quick bite of our snack bar, quick slurp of tea, and we can get back at it. Always good to have a break. Head on over to www.umpretail.com and help support mine and Lee's business, because without Ultimate Modeling Products there would not be any international scale modeler, and all the videos we put out there and the Facebook page and the forum we run. We stock loads and loads of modeling products, including all our own products of our Apex airbrush, our pigments, primers, sanders, thinner and cleaner tools, our wonderful storage system, polish system, and weathering washes. We also sell modeling tools, paints, model kits, glues, solutions, fillers, weathering products, aftermarket, and of course, international scale modeler merchandise and gift cards. And all orders made before 12 midday get next day delivery in the UK, and international orders are shipped within 48 hours. After that short commercial break, we're back, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to glue together several components on the body that we can glue in place now and prime and paint together. Now this will save on parts that need all individually painting, and it'll save a lot less messy assembly later on. Basically, we can glue these with plastic cement rather than CA glue. It gives a stronger join, and not only that, with a slower working time, we can make sure this is all straight, level, and lined up properly, because these are quite important parts. These are going to dictate where our wheels sit and how the car sits, so very important. So I've lined up the front ones. We've got everything in place. I put a small clamp on there, just giving it a little bit of pressure. We're gluing these with my Tamiya Extra Thin Plasti-Weld mix, which is a 50-50 mix. That way I get a nice hot glue that takes a little bit longer to set and gives me the best of both worlds. It's a good tip my buddy Norman gave me a while back. You can use mech or any of the really hotter glues to do this. I like Plasti-Weld purely and simply. It's easy to get hold of. So again, all the parts we can get in place are all going to be painted the same colour. We're gluing in place with our Tamiya Extra Thin. And like I say, this way we can just paint it all as a whole. So we'll prime it as a whole. And to be honest, we end up leaving it in the primer colour because, well, it looked good. So a couple of coats of UMP black primer, and that will do us just fine for the chassis colour. Quick component to pop on the front. Now, if looking online, the Cobra seems to have a mixture of black or it looks galvanized to me. I don't know if it is, but I decided to go with black. And again, gluing in the top components for the steering strut. Just be careful, make sure it's all lined up and that everything works as it should. All lines up pretty well, not too bad at all. Make sure everything's straight and true. We want to keep everything all nice and straight here. Pop on our steering rack, as close as we're going to get to a steering rack anyway. And that just sits on top loose. So there's two ways to do this. We can either melt the top of the plastic to form an edge, or my idea was to add a dab of UV glue on each side and then hit it with the UV light to cure it. And that'll hold this in place and still allow the steering to work. So LP11's out again. We're going to prime up the radiator, brake discs, and get them all ready for a wash. A couple of light coats does the job brilliantly for a 0.2mm apex. We're about 12 psi again. Then some LP5 on the rest of the components. A couple of coats. And we're all nicely done. Again, 0.2mm apex, 12 psi. And then we've got some rubber parts to paint up as well in a minute using LP65, I believe it is. So the LP5 Tamiya, beautiful colour, lays down really well, really nice semi-gloss black. Does work well. Like I say, I'm liking the smaller needle nozzle on the apex, and a lower pressure does seem to be working really well. So a couple of light coats on all the parts. Then we can leave all these overnight, and then the following morning we can assemble them. Same engine blue, the GX blue we use for the engine on the suspension. So we're going to paint all the springs, then we'll hand paint the tops and bottoms, like so. So a couple of light coats of that, and then some LP65 on the rubber parts, on the hoses, etc. And there we go. As easy as that. Lacquer paint is beautiful to work with. You can really paint fast with it. And again, these are the exhaust headers or manifolds we need. So these are different ones in the kit. You have to make these up. And again, we're going to hit it with a Molotow chrome. Same as we did before. Nice wet coat to get the nice chrome effect. Alkali gloss them. And then they'll be ready to go. So the tyres, while we're waiting for that to dry, we've got our Edding paint marker pen in white, and we're just going to infill the Goodyear writing on the tyre. So pump the pen off, as you see, I've done it on the top right of the instructions to get the paint flowing, and then as you put it in the indent, just push down lightly, and the capillary reaction will carry the paint around. It's yeah, it works really well actually. Fills them in well. I zoom in a second, don't worry, so you can see what I'm doing. So there you go, you can see the raised writing is there. We're just pushing the pen in, ever such a slight push down, and the paint flows, and the capillary reaction carries it around. We do get a little bit of excess on there. If you moisten a cotton bud, Tamiya pointed cotton bud with some Mr. Hobby leveling thinner, it takes it off pretty well. So we've done both sides, we'll do all 4 tyres, and then they can dry overnight, ready to be fitted the next day as well. But it looks good, adds a bit of interest. Very handy, these paint pens. They're not the cheapest. Oh, you see, we put a little bit too much on. So we just grab our cotton bud and just wipe it off like so. Next day, we've got our wheels. So these have been primed in GX2 gloss black again. And we've got the Silver Plate Next SM08 from Mr. Hobby. Now, you can't get this one in the UK. This has already been thinned with Mr. Hobby leveling thinner many, many moons ago. I've had this bottle of paint for a long time. And we're going to give this a couple of light coats with this. It's a beautiful colour, and I'm so happy I picked it for the wheels. So, really nice mist sprays, 12 psi, 0.2mm apex. And as you can see, the coverage we're getting over the gloss black looks phenomenal. So we're just going to get all those angles, lots of different angles. We've got the back of the wheel in all the insets and raised and recessed areas. Hence why I'm going round and round, so we get all the different angles. And we're going to put 3 light coats on there. Let them dry 5 minutes between coats. Don't forget our knock-ons as well. And very importantly, let this dry overnight before you go anywhere near it, or you will leave fingerprints in it. And there we go. There's all of them done. beautiful silver colour. Absolutely stunning colour, this. So happy I chose these for the wheel colours. Now, cut off our rubber inserts to hold the tyre together. Picking which side looks the best on the paint, on the Goodyear. And then we've got our Tamiya knife just to trim off the excess rubber. Very gently and very carefully. And we'll pick which side looks the best. Pop the plastic insert of the wheel on the other side. And a few dabs of CA glue in place. And then we'll offer up our wheel. Don't forget the front and rears have different rear inserts. The fronts are all the same. Well, the front facing part, and there we go. There's 2 of them done. They're looking good. Very nice colour. Really does look good. And a quick test fit in place. Just pop it on. And there we go. Perfect. So the writing is dried now from last night. So I've noticed a little bit overfilling on some of the lettering. So a bit of missed hobby 11th thinner on a Tamiya pointed cotton bud. I'm just going to gently rub over the top. That will get the excess paint off. And it really does make it look a lot more defined and a lot better. So time well spent. We've got some Tamiya LP71 Champagne Gold, I think it is. And we're going to brush paint our calipers. The calipers are very, very lacking, as are the brake discs. But to be honest, they can barely be seen through the wheels. So not an issue, but we will paint them up, give them a wash as per usual. Give our radiator, an oil cooler, I assume it's an oil cooler on the front, a Tamiya panel line wash. So we'll thin this down a little bit. We'll put a few drops in a UMP paint pot and a few drops of mineral spirits in there to thin it down a bit more, to let it flow a bit better. And it's ideal on parts like this where we don't need a thick wash. And there we go. And again, once all the parts are washed, put them to one side. And again, all the blue centers of our springs, we can pop the wash in and that will fill it in. And it's not all blue then. It looks like a shocker properly. So suspension, this is the next day now. Everything is dried. We removed all the excess wash from the parts using a cotton bud and some mineral spirits. A couple of dabs of Loctite super glue. Referring to our instructions all the time. We pop everything in place. Now this is where the kit starts to let itself down a little bit now because the fit isn't great in some areas. Not too bad on the front. I did have a few issues on the back. A little bit difficult to get parts in place because their locating point isn't very positive. So this is where you need to really start taking your time now and appreciate this is a 30-year-old kit. So we've got the rear differential, the rear drive shaft in. I'm just checking that everything is equidistant and symmetrical. I don't want any wheels being further out than others or further apart. So just careful bit of measurement. We got our springs in there as well. A little dab of CA glue on the top and the bottom. Push it in place. There's a little locating point on these ones. Very, very careful. And then our discs, be careful because these are handed. They've got locating points on them. Make sure you got them the right way round. And a little dab of CA glue. And then they go. Make sure they're straight and all lined up. Like I say, it's just not very positive, some of the connecting points now. So you really need to start paying attention and making sure everything's level, straight, in the right place, because I think it's quite easy to mess things up. We can glue on our chromed exhaust manifolds now. We're going to have to kind of guess where they're going to go. So I've popped them on because the side exit exhaust connect to these, or they're supposed to anyway. So we're just going to weight up by eye, like so. And then 3 dabs of CA glue is locating point at the back, and we've got our 2 engine mounts at the front. So we use the rear mount to line it all up. It's a big old engine in a little car, this. It's a lot of power. These things must have been terrifying back in the day. Absolutely terrifying to have a 7-litre engine in them. Crazy. So line up the back part, pop it in place, and then look at the front. Is it straight? On mine it wasn't quite straight, so we just needed to pick it off the front mounts and spin it round like so. And there we go. Pop it back down on the mount. Hold it for a sec. Let the CA glue do its job. And there we go. We're in place. Front radiator, we put the hose in on top already. Bottom one will go on in a second. Line it all up at the expansion tank. Bit of CA glue. Pop it in. Hold it for a second. It grabs it. Now the rear axle, a bit tricky, a bit troublesome. Doesn't fit the wheels. It's a little bit too thick. So quick go over the 180. And a little bit of a twist. And there we go. That one's in place. Push the wheel back in properly. No problem at all. Once they're both on, a little bit of CA glue in the center for the knock on. And then push that home. Job done. There we are. And again, pop it in place. And there we go. There's all 4 wheels in place. It's starting to look like a car now. So while we get all the wheels lined up properly, I think it's time for a bit of a test fit of the body. So I had to glue together the interior and the firewall bulkhead to get it in place to sit properly. It's still loose in the car. It's not on yet, but it seems to sit well. This front right wheel sits a little bit high, but I think I can see where I can tweak it when we come to finish off later. But we've got a lot of parts to still put on, so I'm not going to start mucking around with things just yet. But the body fits, the boot lid fits, the body fits on the chassis well. Just getting a little bit of tweaking here and there to get it to fit. But we've got our interior to do next, and that's what the next part of the video will be. Part 3. But it's looking good. The colour's beautiful. Really like the colour. The colour of those wheels really contrasts well. And the stripes. You can see, look, got a little bit of movement there. So we can fix that easily. Just need a little bit of manipulation when we get it all done. But there we go. Looking good. Looking sharp. Looking very nice. Love that colour. Like I say, love those wheels as well. Interior colour choice. That's where I've got to decide next. But for today, that's enough of the build. Let's go back to me for final thoughts. So as you can see, it's come along all right. It's looking okay for an old kit. As I said many times, it's not too bad. It's starting to show a few little fit issues here and there when I was putting the chassis together, just because those parts need to line up. So if you saw I'm measuring things, make sure everything lines up. It looks pretty good. The front end on the right-hand side is sitting a little bit high, but by the looks of it, it just needs manipulating in place. So we'll deal with that when we got all the interior in. That's my main concern, making sure everything fits. It looks like it's going to be okay. I've got the boot trunk area in place, and that doesn't look like it's going to foul anywhere. And the interior toe I've had in as well, and that looks like it's going to be okay too. So fingers crossed will all fit together. But so far, it's been a pretty enjoyable build. I'd recommend you can get a hold of it. Yeah, 16 scale AC Cobra, what's not to like with a humongous 427 engine in it. Very interesting to build. A little bit lacking in some areas, but it's not too bad. I built a lot worse in the past, so it's certainly, yeah, it's coming to fruition now. So in part 3, we're going to deal with the interior. Now, I am still not 100% sure on what colour to do the interior. I've got a few of the Gravity interior sets. I've got a few interior colours. It's either going to be a darkish cream colour or tan. I think the cream colour will go better with that red than tan. I think it'll be a little bit too dark and it might clash. So I think we're edging more towards the cream colours, the cream seats, cream carpet, cream door panels, and then we'll stick with like a probably black dash and black accentuated areas inside as well. So we've got that to do. Now we're back in part 4. We've got final assembly. We've got a ton of chrome parts to prep, prime, paint, and clear. Loads to do, and they're going to be quite troublesome. But overall, it's going well. I'm happy with the kit. I'm glad I picked it up, even though I was a bit sceptical at first. It's going well. It's not too bad at all. Now, we get to choose our next small scale build. Now, my plan in the long term is to always have a small scale build and a larger one running alongside each other. That way I get a little bit of variety on what I'm building. And of course, 9 times out of 10, I'm hoping they will be entered into one of our buddy builds that are going on. Now, I'm going to chat about the buddy builds because the GB's buddy builds have changed a little bit. I'll chat about that in my bench update, which I plan on doing maybe today or tomorrow or Wednesday. Because we changed the rules a little bit. Basically, we got rid of the deadline dates. That's it, really. But I'll discuss it in a bench update and have a look at. But that's my long-term goal. Always have a big scale, 16th or 12th scale on the go, as well as a 20, 24, whatever on the go as well. So we're going to start with the B&W M6 from Nunu Platts next. And that'll be my entry into our motorsport buddy build. So I plan to start that today. It's a video build because, like I said, stupidly at the beginning of the year, I was going to video build everything I build this year. Except snow speeders. We're not doing them anymore. I've been pestered way too much. That is gone. A new home. Adam has bought that off me. And it's winging its way. So no more snow speeders from me. Yeah, so there we go. We'll be back to part 3 with this. I'm not sure when. Probably about a week, I reckon. I never sit and think I'm going to do just this today. I literally come in here, sit down, right, what do I feel like doing? And today I'm going to prep the body on the B&W M6 once this video is up. So that's the plan today. But you never know, tomorrow I might think I'll do the interior. We'll really rattle along with it, get it done. And before you know, part 3 will be up. But we'll see. We'll see how we get on. So thanks for watching today. As always, check out International Scale Model Facebook page and forum. Check out umpretail.com as well. You can get most of the products I use in my videos. And if there's any products you see, they should be listed in the description down below. There's a big long list of them all. If they're not in there, they need updating because the links change all the time. I do try and keep on top of it, but it's quite a fruitless task because vendors change their links or go out of stock. Let me know and I'll try and amend it as I go. Check out my Paul ISM Facebook page and Instagram channel. I am 7 followers away from 4,000 on Facebook. If you're not following me, please go over. It's in the link to the description down below. My Paul ISM Facebook page, where all my personal modern work is shared. So you get day but today updates on there. I'm nearly at 4,000. It's a milestone I've been trying to reach for some time, so I'd be very appreciative if you go over there. And of course, check out the Live the Bench page and the Off Air Hangout group to join our live shows and our Off Air Hangouts as well. Thanks for watching today. I will catch you all next time. Take care, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.